Trump supporters in the Democratic stronghold of Philadelphia were caught plotting to attack a voting site as Trump lost his lead to Joe Biden. Now, of course, Donald Trump and his campaign have repeatedly claimed that this election was filled with all sorts of voter fraud, although they failed to provide any specific evidence or examples of that voter fraud. However, that messaging does unfortunately influence the lunatic QAnon supporters who believe that Donald Trump is this country's rightful leader. And so 2 of them were arrested after police received a tip about an apparent threat to attack a vote counting center in Philadelphia on Thursday night. So here's how it all went down based on the reporting that we have at the moment. Law enforcement told local media it received a tip at 10 p.m. that a group of people, possibly a family, was traveling from Virginia in a silver Hummer to carry out an attack on the Philadelphia Convention Center. 2 bicycle officers approached the men. Each man was carrying a firearm, and another weapon was found in that Hummer, in that vehicle, which they admitted does belong to them. A search revealed the men didn't have a license to carry a firearm in Pennsylvania, so each man was arrested. Let me be clear, these are people who don't even live in Philadelphia. They traveled from Virginia to Philadelphia to attempt to carry out this terrorist attack. This is what terrorists do in dictatorial regimes. And the identities of the 2 men have just been released and reported by the Washington Post. One of the men is in his 40s, the other one is in his 60s, but it doesn't matter. What matters here is that these are QAnon conspiracy theorists who support Trump, who believe the nonsense that's coming out of Trump's mouth. Ronna McDaniel, the head of the RNC today, held a press conference claiming that a whistleblower came out and informed them that there was fraud taking place. Again, these are claims that should go through the courts. And to be absolutely clear, some of these accusations have already been heard by federal judges who are growing increasingly irritable by the nonsense that they're bringing forward with absolutely no evidence whatsoever. In one of the cases in Philadelphia, a Trump campaign lawyer argued that the poll workers in Philadelphia are not allowing them to watch as they tabulate. And when the judge asked, okay, well, are there any people from the campaign, any Republicans watching the poll workers? They said that there was non-zero people there watching. And the judge asked for clarification, and finally the lawyer had to admit that, yeah, we actually did have someone watching. And so the judge is like, then what's your problem? Why are you here?
So it's not just Donald Trump. We told you earlier in the show about Sean Hannity pushing out total lies and conspiracy theories. Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, Newt Gingrich, they're all on there. They're all talking about fraud that does not exist. Every story we've already debunked. And they full well know that they're lying and they're doing it. And then Louis Gohmert. So Louis Gohmert's asked by JD Durkin at Cheddar, do you have any evidence of fraud? He says no, but there might have been in past elections. So that's why it's so important that we tell you that there's fraud here. Okay, then Michael Schur asks Louis Gohmert, so what do you think is happening here?
So Cenk, not to interrupt you, but we actually have that video if you'd like to go to it right now.
Yeah, let's watch the JD Durkin one, and then the Michael Schur one is even worse. But let's watch this first.
What is the allegation of fraud? Have you seen the evidence?
You can have different kinds of evidence, and when somebody says, I voted and my vote was not counted, and here are the names of lots of other people that voted for Trump and their votes were not being counted, you got a problem. But that's not all.
Have you seen any of that evidence yourself?
I'm hearing about the evidence from people that have. So anyway.
Is it concerning at all to sort of fan the flames of this argument that there's fraud happening without you yourself, an elected member of Congress, having seen that fraud?
We need the proof shown in court. But obviously, you're in a Pollyanna world and you don't see the destruction of this little exercise of freedom.
I mean, I don't have the evidence, but you live in a Pollyanna world. And so fanning the flames, and Michael Schur, in this case, was reporting for WGN. They haven't aired it yet, but I know with certainty from not only Michael but from the network that that Gohmert said, "I blame Black Lives Matter and Antifa." What's he talking? Blame them for what? You haven't even presented any evidence. I blame them for a non-specific fraud because they're black people. It's a racism 101 to blame black people for crimes they didn't commit, and in this case, that don't even exist. And lo and behold, look at that. Domestic terrorists show up to start shooting people. Huh. Hey, I don't know, I was just egging people on. It's called stochastic terrorism. I didn't ask Bob to show up. I just said, there's something terrible going on here. They're stealing something from you. You might want to do something about it. And remember your Second Amendment rights and all that rhetoric that the Republicans and the right wing normally use. And now you spray in, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, there's fraud, go get them. And lo and behold, a van full of QAnon people show up.
Yeah.
Super dangerous.
Yeah, and so how do we know they're QAnon people? I think it's important to be clear about that. Video footage of the vehicle, the Hummer that belonged to them, showed it covered with stickers promoting the baseless QAnon conspiracy theory, as well as associated slogans such as the Great Awakening and where we go one, we go all. An American flag also hung from the back of the car. By the way, how ironic is that? An American flag as you're showing up to a location where poll workers are counting ballots and your whole intention is to harm them physically with the weapons that you're carrying. They were armed with AR-15s, by the way, if you're wondering what kind of weapons. And here are some images of what their vehicle looked like.
What they're doing to the flag is a crime, right? I don't mean a physical crime, I mean a symbolic one. I mean, Anna's 100% right. Look at the irony of that. I'm an American, so I believe we shouldn't count votes and I should murder anyone who does. No, you missed the whole point of the country. Well, I should be the one in charge and brown and black people should be underneath me, okay? You missed the whole point of the country. All men are created equal. And yes, you might have missed a couple of amendments in there somewhere. So look, these specific folks who got arrested, they'll go through the court system. We'll find out what their insane motivations were, and we'll find out why they brought AR-15s. If you're wondering why we keep calling QAnon people lunatics,
it's because they are.
Yeah, if you don't know any of those conspiracies, count yourself lucky, but I'm gonna have to tell you now so that you know that, hey, it's not like, hey, we have a political disagreement, hey, they voted for that congressman and we don't agree with that congressman, or hey, they're in favor of more deregulation and we're not, etc. No, they believe that the top Democrats in this country are running a child sex trafficking ring, and some portions of them also believe that they're using child sacrifice, having child sacrifices, and then I guess they're doing something with the blood. Do I have to keep going? And there's some sort of transfer of fluids, and that's really vital to this. I don't know if they came to stop the transfer of fluids from the child sacrifices, or if they got all riled up about the vote count and how somehow that's connected to pizza. So these are the lunatics that Donald Trump said, well, they strongly care about child molesters. Meanwhile, Donald Trump said that he wishes well for the top, most renowned, infamous child molester in the country right now, Ghislaine Maxwell. She's the top aide of Jeffrey Epstein. She's under arrest, and Trump's like, I wish her well. I wish her really well. Meanwhile, these lunatics are like, the guy who says the child molester is awesome is the good guy who's trying to stop the child molesters. That's why I got to go kill someone. Okay, you see someone with a QAnon sticker or whatever, don't talk to them, just move away, leave them alone. They belong in an insane asylum, and they're likely to cause nothing but trouble because they can't form rational thoughts. By the way, QAnon also believed that Trump was and Robert Mueller initially and Trump were working in cahoots to expose these child molesters. When Robert Mueller said nothing of the sort, they didn't change their mind. When Donald Trump, after 4 years, didn't arrest anyone, in fact, the only person who was arrested, he said, I wish her well. It didn't change their mind. Why? That's why we call them lunatics. They're not attached to reality. And so when they show up with AR-15s, that is very serious. And in this case, great job by the authorities, credit where credit is due, in stopping these guys before they went in the building. Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.